Good morning. This is a VirtualPBX-admin training. I'm sorry we're an hour late. We ran into basically a customer issue that I had to help someone with, so that's the reason for the delay. So again, I do apologize. As I said, this is VirtualPBX-admin training, and we will be covering we'll be covering basically your complete Dash setup. This takes about an hour and a half. If you can't stay for the entire thing, I completely understand. We do record these trainings, so you can always go back and see the complete training later, as well as see the previous trainings at your leisure. Let's go ahead and get started. Right now, you should see your Dash login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. You can also get there from the VirtualPBX website. All right, just go to virtualpbx.com, look at the top of the page, and you will see a blue bar going across the top, and there'll be a login link there, as well as a support link there. And then also from the support pages, there's a Dash login link on that page as well. Once you get here, and I do recommend bookmarking this if you're going to be the admin for the account for a long time, but we need your email address. That's going to be unique for each user. Then your password, and then your account name. Now, if for some reason you didn't get your password, like it didn't get emailed to you, or it just never came through, or you simply forgot, over here on towards the bottom right, above the sign-in bar, we have a forgot your info link. You can click on that. And we still need your email address. That's the one key piece of information. And then one of the following, right? So only need one, either the account name or an account phone number, right? So this is a number your customers call to get into the system. And then you would click on reset password. When you do so, you'll get an email with a link. You click on that, gets you into the system, and it lets you change your password. It will then log you back out, basically making you use your new password again. But it also gives you the opportunity to click on the Remember Me box. And then we can click Sign In. And here we are on our dashboard. Now, if it's your first time logging in, you actually won't see this right away. What you instead see is you're taken to the account or your user page. This is where you would change your user password if you didn't like the one that the system generated for you, for example. Also, that first time you log in, the Dash wizard will pop up showing you or highlighting some of these different features. Now, as an admin, on the left here, you also have the account settings. Most common thing that's changed here is the time zone, possibly language. If you ever change your account name, we do recommend that you contact our billing team, because there'll be probably some other things on their side they will need to update. And then now this is a test account, so it doesn't have everything that your accounts will have. So on your accounts over here on the left underneath user, you would have a billing section, and that includes things like being able to see your invoice. You can see the current plan you're on. You can update who the billing contact person is, and you can update the credit card on file that's being charged. Once you're done here, just click up close over here to the top right, and then you'll see the dashboard page. And again, that first login, the wizard will come up with pop-ups highlighting what certain things are. Up here in the middle, we got our total users. Right, these are people who make and receive calls. If you're on a user plan, each user that you add increases your bill versus each user you remove decreases your bill. Then we have total devices. We have 26 of them, and then a breakdown of their types. Now, Dash was designed from the ground up with a VoIP in mind. VoIP stands for Voice over Internet Protocol, basically use your internet connection to make and receive calls. A Softphone is a software application, right, on a computer, could be on your cell phone or a tablet, It uses that internet connection to make and receive calls. Now, the Softphone will include the VirtualPBX Softphone app, as well as any third-party Softphone apps you might be using. Down here, next up, we have the web phone. This is a web browser-based phone. It's currently usable with Chrome and Firefox on a computer, right? So either on a desktop or a laptop computer. The mobile versions are not fully supported, so you can try it, but you may not work properly. Then we have cell phone. That's pretty self-explanatory. At least most of us are familiar with that. And then SIP phone. This is a physical VoIP phone, right? So VoIP, right, is a general term or umbrella term. And then SIP is a particular subtype of VoIP phone, right? So there are different kinds of protocols that VoIP phones can use, and we support SIP phones. And these are phones that are auto-provisionable on the system, meaning relatively simple setup. And you can then use, as far as I know, all of the features that the phones themselves have built in. All right, down here, I have unregistered devices. Oops, I have 2 of them. Let's see if I can do that. There we go. And that's basically saying, Dash is saying that of your VoIP devices, 2 of them are not connected, right? We can't send calls to them. That could be because they're simply unplugged. That could be, someone hasn't logged in. That could be someone changed their internet service provider and now their VoIP phone can't connect to us, among many other potential possibilities. Then we have, let's go back to the dashboard. Total numbers, these are your phone numbers on the account, right? These are phone numbers that people can call in to get to your system. Your account includes anywhere from 2 to 15 phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price. For specifics about how many phone numbers your plan includes and or what the overage is for additional numbers, you're going to want to talk to our account services team, and they can verify those amounts for you. Then here we have the assigned numbers and spare numbers. An assigned number means it's in use, right? If someone can dial it and potentially speak to somebody, or leave a voicemail, send a fax, or join a conference. Right? Spare number means it's on your account, so it counts towards your allotment, but you're not currently using it. Right? So for instance, you might have a number that you have in place just in time for our Thanksgiving promotion, right? So you didn't want to get it up and running until all your other processes are in place. And say tomorrow you're going to make it a signed number, so then it's in use, and then all your advertising media goes out. The next breakdown here, we have USDID and US toll-free. US toll-free is actually US Canada toll-free, right? It's an 800 number, 888 number, all the way down to 833. USDID, that just means a US local phone number, right? So if you want a phone number in Miami, Florida, you can grab one, right? If you want one, in Chicago, Illinois, you can have a phone number there, and it just kind of lumps them all together. Your Dash does support international phone numbers. If you're interested in adding an international phone number, you need to email our porting team. That's PORTING at virtualpbx.com. They'll need to know the city and country that you're interested in getting a number in. If there are additional requirements, they will let you know what those requirements are. It will vary from country to country. Some are very stringent, some are not. Just depends on the individual country. Down here, we have conference bridges. This means I've enabled 4 of my users to moderate or host a conference. Oops. Let me turn that off so that we have less interruptions. All right, over here to the top right, we have our main numbers. So these 4 phone numbers all behave the same way. They're all going to go to the same location on my system. And for example, they'll all play the same main greeting. All right, then I've got a conference number. You can have multiple conference room numbers if you want. But this number is what everyone dials to join a conference, whether they're my staff members or my vendors or my clients. The Faxbox number, this is your inbound Faxbox number, right? It's the main number for the account for the faxing. Then we got the company directory. This downloads a text file which has your users and their extension numbers. The Softphone directory, this is for use with the VirtualPBX desktop softphone application. You would download this file, you would then upload it to our VirtualPBX softphone app on your Mac or Windows PC. And then once you upload it, you'll be able to see the presence of all the other softphones on your account. Right? So if your entire staff is all using the VirtualPBX softphones, then you'll be able to know who's on a call and who's not by looking at your contact list. All right, then we got the store discount codes. So just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount in our online store, which is at store.virtualpbx.com. And then down here, we have the account realm. This is used in a couple things. It's used to program a third-party softphone or third-party VoIP phone. It's one of the 3 pieces of information you'll need. It's also used for outbound faxing. So on Dash, to send a fax out, you need to create an email, right? So create an email like you would to your cousin Bob. In the to field, instead of putting Bob's email address, you would put the +sign, the number 1, the area code and phone number you're faxing to, the @ symbol, and then this account realm. And then you just need to attach a PDF or TIFF file and click send. Just one attachment per email. Up here at the top, I actually kind of skipped this. So you can always click on your name to get back to that account page that we were at earlier. Now, for many of you, right next to your name, there'll be a D&D toggle, right? D&D standing for Do Not Disturb. If it's white, that means it's on. If it's black with a little gray outline, that means it's off. The reason I don't have it on this page here is because my user is also an agent in an ACD queue. So for any of your staff members who are in ACD queues, they will not have a D&D toggle at the top of their page. Here we have the little question mark icon for help. So here, you can chat with us. This will open up a chat window with our support team. Down here is our Learn More, which will take you to our support pages. Right, we'll open up a new tab. Then we have the online store, the store.virtualpbx.com. And then lastly, the web phone. Now the web phone link only shows up after you've added a web phone to the user. So like if you just signed up, you'll have only 3 of these populated. You'll have a blank space. Then if you add in web phone, usually by the next time you log in, it would show up. But this will take you, open up a new tab, take you to webphone.virtualpbx.net. Here we have the hamburger or menu icon, right? 3 horizontal lines. We're on the dashboard, and that's where we'll be for most of this training. But we'll be getting to these other sections. Some of these, like ACD queues, have an add-on cost associated with them, and like dynamic caller ID that's available on some plans and not others. And I'll try to make sure to highlight that as we go through. All right, down here, we've got your caller ID. Now, this is your main company caller ID that you can select from any of your main phone numbers. Unfortunately, my streaming software does not like pull downs sometimes, so I'm gonna try to avoid having weirdness flash up on the screen. But any of these 4 main numbers I have right now, I can select up here. Then we have the company caller ID name, referred to in the industry as CNAME or CNOM, depending on who you speak to. This allows you to enter up to 15 characters, including special characters and spaces, that gets transmitted when your VoIP phones make an outbound call. Now, after you click Save Changes down at the bottom, the CNAME information is transmitted to the other carriers who support CNAME so they can update their databases. That can take up to 3 business days. Usually it's a little faster, but not always. Now, that's all we can control, right? We can only control what we send out and what we have sent over to the other carriers. Unfortunately, not every carrier that your call can route through supports CNAME, right? Some of them just choose not to do so. This is usually going to be small or regional carriers, right? Any big name carrier that you've like seen, that you may have heard of probably supports CNAME to some degree or another. The other thing to know about CNAME is that the destination network and device, that combination has final say about what shows up on the phone's display. Right, the phone itself, it may not have enough room on the screen. Obviously, if that phone has your number already in it as a contact, whatever that phone says your contact name is, that's what's going to display, not what we send. The network that the destination device is on also has a say on what shows through. So like if you're trying to call a cell phone, for example, your CNAME information may not show up at all. Like I use AT&T for my cell phone, and most company names don't show up. If I choose to pay AT&T an additional, I think it's $10 a month right now, I can have all of the CNAME information come through that gets transmitted. So just some limitations on CNAME. Next, we have the company emergency information, or E911. This is for North American addresses. Put in your address here. And this is so when someone picks up their VoIP phone, emergency services will get this address delivered to them. Now, every one of your phone numbers can have their own E911 information, and that allows you to select on your devices what E911 information you want them to have. And then any changes here, you click on Save Changes. All right, next up we have hold music. Now this is your account-wide default hold music. One thing to know is that on Dash, hold music is defined as after a call has reached a user, and there's a connected call to a user, and then they press hold on their VoIP phone. That's when the hold music will play. Now Dash allows you to upload your own files. It will accept .ogg, .mp3, and .wav, .wave formats. You want to make sure it's recorded in mono, not in stereo, and that it's under 1 megabyte in size. You would just click the little up arrow icon here and then click on Save Changes. And this will default to everybody, on all your users on your account. All right, hours here is actually part of main number. So let's just go to main number and we'll work our way all the way down. If you click here on main company numbers, you will see all your phone numbers on your account that act as main numbers. If you choose to remove one of them, right? You're like, oh, I don't want to use this 213 number anymore as a main number, you can click Unassign. Now, when you unassign a number, it's still on your account, right? It's now a spare number. You can choose to then assign it to a different, like to a user, to a ring group, among other things, right? Or you can, under the numbers tab over here, which we'll be getting to, you can also remove the number from the account. If you want to add numbers to the account, you have two options down here at the bottom. First is add from spare numbers, right? So you can see any of your spare numbers. You can then select one and add it to the account if you're so inclined. You can also buy numbers, right? This will be adding new numbers to your account. You have local and toll-free. Toll-free, you just choose the toll-free prefix that you want to work with and click on search, and it should populate a list of phone numbers that you can choose from. You can choose one that you like. You click add, adds it to your cart, and you see here the number. You have a trash icon in case you just change your mind. Otherwise, you can just buy the number. And this is the system making sure the number was truly available, because this is the numbers that are presented to you are a dynamic list. They can be changing at any time. And then adds it to your account. Local numbers is similar, but you need to know the area code you're searching for. Now, in larger metro areas, you can search for an area code and you can get this message, right? Sorry, we couldn't find any numbers matching the criteria. Area code 310 is actually the original Los Angeles area code, so it's been exhausted for a while. So in that instance, you would want to search for a nearby area code. Let's go with the 424 is the newer one. And then you can still have a number in that area. Now, if you are hard set on, say in this case, getting a 310 area code phone number, you would want to contact our porting team and let them know that you're looking to get a number in that area code. The downside is we can't control the number that we get, nor do we know if or when we're getting one. Essentially, what we're doing is we're waiting for someone to give up a phone number in that area code, and once one becomes available, we try to go get it. Right? So we can't predict when someone's going to give up their phone number, which is why we won't be able to give you an ETA. Now, next to every number, there's a little gear icon here. So this is where you can adjust the caller ID. So you can adjust the outbound CNAME for any of your phone numbers, as well as turn on the ability to accept inbound CNAME information. Right, so it would show up on your staff's phones. Here's the E911, so you can put an address for each phone number. And Prepend, this is for your VoIP phone users. You can put text in front of the caller ID display that shows up on your VoIP phone's displays, right? So let's say new location. Save. So now whenever a call comes in on this particular phone number, right, this 323 phone number, my staff members, when they pick up a call on their VoIP phone, on their VoIP phone's display, they'll see new location and then the phone number of the person who's calling in. So now my staff member knows, oh, someone's calling about the new location we just opened up. And they can answer and be prepared for the most likely questions they're going to get. All right, office hours strategy. You have the choice here of being a 24-hour open office or customize your office hours. If you choose custom office hours for each day of the week that you're open, you want to put a check mark. And then to the right, you want to select your open hours in 24-hour or military time. You also have the option at the very bottom to say if you close for lunch, and then you can enter your lunch hours. And then you would click Save Changes. Office holidays. First, you want to decide if you're open or closed for holidays, right? If you are closed, then you put a check mark here. And then over here to the right, under Add Holiday, you have the options for single day, date range, or advanced. Right? Each one of those creates a new row. So single day, like we have here for Halloween, you give it a name, and then you select the month and the day. Right? Date range, like we have here for Xmas break, give it a start date and an end date. Notice that there's no year indicator here on any of these. So especially for date range, you want to avoid a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, just so you don't confuse the system. And then lastly here, this retreat, this is our advanced option where I'm saying every third Friday in May, we're on holiday, right? It's company picnic day. And then any changes, you click Save Changes. All right, incoming call handling. Now, this is how the system is handling calls that come in on any of my main numbers. Notice I have these sub-tabs, so I start off on open hours, but I also have an after hours tab and a holidays tab. Right, your base options are the same, but you can make them customized for each time zone or each time frame. So first option, right, calls coming on my main numbers, they go to my virtual receptionist. This is a link that you can click, opens up a new box. On the left, this is your main menu. This is what people press on their phones to navigate through your phone system. You click over here where it says Add Route, and you can then enter a new menu option. Now I know the pull downs here don't work properly on the new ones, but you have 0 through 9, as well as the star key and the default route to work with. And then on the other pull down, you tell it where it's going, right? So pressing 0 goes, I can go to the smart directory, dial by name directory. I can have it go to a specific user, like I have it set up right now. I can send it to a call queue, and that's if you're making use of ACDQs or ACDQs Pro. I can send it to a specific phone, right? A specific device. This isn't always recommended in case that device does not have its own voicemail or answering machine associated with it. You can send it to a media file, right? This will play a greeting file of some sort, like hours of operation or directions, for example. The downside is once that file stops playing, the call is ended. Groups, these are like departments. So I can send it to my front desk group of people, and any one of them can answer the call. Advanced call flows, this is if I'm making use of multiple auto attendants. That's a plan-specific feature. And in this case, this would be a submenu option, right? So if I could, for instance, change this to have 1 for English, 2 for Spanish, and then Spanish would go to its own menu, probably then play a Spanish greeting, and then the menu options would go to my Spanish-speaking staff members. And then lastly, you have the option to send calls to a specific voicemail box. So for instance, this probably makes more sense. Now to the right, I have my greeting options. And first up is text-to-speech. You type in what you want the greeting to say. You would click update. You have save towards the bottom here, and then save changes. Now, the text-to-speech greeting is limited to 250 characters. Sometimes you can go a little bit over that, but 250 is the safe maximum limit. Not words, characters. The other thing to know is once you save a new text-to-speech greeting, the system just gives it the same name, right? So in this case, it will name it main open hours menu TTS. If I come here an hour later and I update the greeting, like, oh no, that sounded wrong. Update, say a couple words, I click update, save. It saves that file, this new file with the same name, main open hours menu TTS. So then I will have 2 copies, right? Or 2 files with that same name. And I won't necessarily know which one is which. So my recommendation is if you make use of text-to-speech greeting, that's great and wonderful. After you've clicked update, save, and save changes, on the left here, you can just kind of see it here, the greetings tab, which we'll be getting to later. You can go there, find the one you just created, and then change the name to something you can recognize or know you can revert to. All right, you can upload your own file, right? You can choose a file, and your system will then have you look for a file on your computer, .wav, .mp3, .ogg, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte, and then you would click update, save, and save changes. You can choose from an existing recording. So this is a pull down. It will show all the media files that you've uploaded. That includes voicemail greetings as well as music files or an actual main greeting. And then, oh, whoops, skipped one. Recorded over the phone. Now the system by default wants you to use a phone on the account. And what that means is a VoIP phone registered on the account. If you want to use a cell phone or a landline to record your main greeting, then you want to go down to settings and see where it says allow outside recording. You want to make sure this is on. By default, this is off on new accounts. So it's something to turn on. Then you call your main number, and then the system wants a PIN number. Now, if you've just signed up, you probably don't have a greeting in place. So when you call your main number, the system tells you there's been no greeting set up for this menu, and then prompts you to enter the PIN number. Right? That's when you would enter this number. If you've been with us for a little while, or you've already put a greeting in place, but you're like, oh, I want to change it, and record it over the phone, then what you would do is when you call your main number, you hear your main greeting play, then you enter this PIN number, and the system will recognize it and say, oh, you want to change your main greeting, and then walk you through how to change that main greeting. Now, for recorded over the phone, if you have a greeting file in place, when you call in and record it over the phone, you're replacing your main greeting that was already there, right? So greeting A is playing, you call in, record a new greeting, right? File name greeting A stays the same, content was just overwritten. So we're entering the holiday season here in the US. you might have a greeting that you typically use for most of the year. You probably want to unassign that from your greetings first before you call in and record a holiday-themed new main greeting. Right, so you would just go from an existing recording and choose something else. Professional recording services. When you click order, this will take you to a new website. It'll open up a new tab. Hosted by Snap Recordings. They have 100 or so voice actors and actresses to choose from. They have different versions of English, of French, and Spanish. They have multilingual options. They have hold treatment, a mix of music and script being read. They handle their own billing, right? They deliver to you typically via email, and then you would simply upload your own file. All right, settings. So first one here, number of retries on missed dial. This is how many times your inbound caller can enter in an invalid menu option or extension number. Right, so in this sample, right, caller comes in and they press 3 after they hear the greeting. The system is going to wait to make sure they weren't entering an extension number, and then we'll tell them that's an invalid entry, and then we'll play the main greeting again. That inbound caller, if they press 3 again for the second time, right, this is their first retry, then the system's going to send them, in this case, to the default route, right? So they had the initial try and then one retry, total of 2 attempts. Then it goes to the default action. Now, if I remove this default action, on that second attempt, the system will say, we did not recognize your entries, and disconnect the call. Dialing timeout. This controls how long the system waits after it hears a button press before it goes on to saying, try to send you to what you pressed, right? So in that previous example, caller presses 3. The system's going to wait a count of 10 before it says, oh, you really just meant 3. And then it says, oh, that's not a valid option, and give you the error message. Right? Typically, for most customers, I say, probably 3 to 5 is typically enough. 10, to me, seems like a long time. We'll skip, we already did allow outside recording. Allow dialing extensions. If it's on, that means when people get to your main greeting, they can enter the extension number of whoever they're trying to reach. Right? If I turn this off, that means when they call in, they can only press these menu options. They are not going to be able to enter an extension number. And then here we have the suppress playing of invalid entry. By default, this is off, by the way. So what happens? This is when someone presses 3. Right? The system will tell them that's not a valid entry. Right? If you turn that off or suppress it, when you turn it on, you're suppressing it. That means someone presses 3, the system doesn't tell them anything, but it will replay the greeting. So then the person can enter in another greeting option or menu option. So any changes you make to the main menu, the greetings or settings, you need to click Save. And then you need to click Save Changes here under Incoming Call Handling. So you're basically saving twice. All right, next option here is call is being offered to Aaron and then goes to the virtual receptionist. Now, I'm still under my open hours. So that virtual receptionist is what we were just looking at and what I just changed it to. Right? And if we go to after hours, you notice it's going to a different person. If I click on the virtual receptionist, it's a different receptionist. Right? Just going by the main menu, it looks like I have a different text-to-speech greeting. And I can have different settings here if I want them to. All right, so what this is in reality is a live operator answer option, right? So this is a pull down. I can select any of my users, right? I can send it to a queue. I can send it to a specific device. I can select it to go to a media file. I don't recommend this just because your inbound caller will likely hear 2 greetings back to back, and that might cause confusion or frustration, depending. You can send it to a group, or send it to another auto attendant. Right. And in terms of a group, that means you're offering it to multiple people. If they're not, and if none of them are able to answer, then it goes to the virtual receptionist. Option 3, this is, again, you can send it to users, groups, queues, media file, etc. If it doesn't reach them, then it goes to a particular voicemail box you choose. There's one additional option up here, all the way at the bottom, where you say skip to voicemail. Basically, call comes in, it goes right to the voicemail box. Doesn't try to ring any devices whatsoever. The fourth option here only shows up for those of you with auto attendants or multiple auto attendants, which is a plan-specific feature. But if you set up an attendant as available in a main menu, right, a submenu option, you can select it here, meaning calls on your main number are going to a secondary attendant. Again, any changes. So like if I made a change here for this group for my after hours, so I do need to click Save Changes here to make sure that change is actually implemented. All right, here we got the main conference number. Again, I can add from spare, right, or buy new numbers if I want to. I can have multiple conference numbers. I have the ability here to enter in a customized text-to-speech greeting. Now, even if I leave this disabled and I call the conference number, you will still hear, the system will still say, welcome to the conference, please enter conference room number, right? And then we'll prompt you for the PIN number. But if you want to personalize it to like include your company name, that sort of thing, you can do so. And then we have the main Faxbox number. Again, this is your inbound Faxbox number. If you click Edit Faxbox here, you can open up a new window. So first up, you got the inbound notification email. You just put in an email address, and this email address will get an email every time a fax comes through to the system. It's also going to get an email anytime someone calls your main Faxbox number and hears fax tones and then hangs up. Right? And it'll tell you there was a failed inbound fax attempt. So if for some reason like a robo-dialer dials your Faxbox number, you'll get that kind of error or email message. Now, email permissions, this is to allow outbound faxing. So you can put a specific email address if you want, but it's actually really designed to put in your company's domain, right? So that way you can say anyone with, in this case, a virtualpbx.com email address, they can send a fax out from the system, even if they're not a user on the account. And then you click on Save Changes. All right, I've already mentioned this a couple of times. Auto attendants, this is a plan-specific feature. So one use case is that submenuing option that I mentioned previously. The other use case, and it's probably the more common for our customers, is if you own multiple small businesses, right? So each business has its own phone number, its own greeting, but the people who answer calls for those businesses are all the same, right? So you can have, say, I have a dog walking business and say I have a cleaning business, right? Two probably fairly different businesses. They have their own phone numbers, their own greetings. The calls that come in on both of those businesses go to the same staff members. That's one of the reasons you would have a secondary attendant. Now, up here at the top, that's where you add a new attendant. You give it a name and an extension number. The extension number is pretty much for your staff members only. It's just one of the identifiers for the attendant. Once you have created an attendant, you can click on its name, and you can either delete it if you decide you no longer need it. But the main thing here is you have this option for available in main menu, or unavailable in this case. So the reason you would have it unavailable is because it's a standalone attendant, meaning it is its own business, right? If we go down here to Spanish, which we have seen show up under the virtual receptionist, right? I have this one set up to be available in main menu, meaning it's a menu option available on basically anywhere in the account, right? So it doesn't have its own standalone phone number. It will have its own greeting. In this case, it would be a Spanish greeting, but that's what that's there for. Again, attendants can have their own numbers. They can have multiple phone numbers if you want them to, right? So you can still add from spare or buy new. Here you have the extension number for the attendant. Again, this is internal for when your staff needs to send. Like someone calls in on my cleaning business and they actually wanted a dog walking business, my staff member can then transfer to this extension, and that caller then gets to this attendant and gets the main greeting and the proper menu options. And then we have the little wrench icon under settings. This is how the calls are being handled for this attendant. Now, along the top, I still have open hours, after hours, and holidays. Right. This means that this attendant follows the same open hours as we set up under main number. And then you only have the option here for a virtual receptionist. So you would click on that, and then you set up your main menu, your greetings, and your settings. And click Save, and save changes. Now, if you have a business, like one business that's Monday to Friday and another that's 7 days a week, you're likely going to have to either set up a second account or maybe look at an advanced or custom configuration. For either case, you'd want to double contact our account services team. They can see which would make the most sense for you in terms of what you want to do and whatnot from there. All right, next up we have devices. This shows your devices and their status on the account. Green means it's registered, meaning that we can send calls to it. All right, red, unregistered, so we cannot send a call to it. And if we, for instance, if I turn off a device, now it's black. That means I've disabled it, right? Not usable on the system currently. Up here at the top, you can add new devices. And the first up is Softphone. Now this is that physical VoIP phone, right? Sits on someone's desk, most likely. It will shortly pop up a new window. These 6 manufacturers support or have models that support auto provisioning, right? Some like Yealink have a bunch of models available. Some like HTech, not so much. But basically you just need to find your manufacturer, the model of the phone you're working with, and then you need to give it a name, right? Like Bob's phone. And then enter the MAC address, right? The MAC address is unique to each phone. Often it's a sticker on the back of the phone. But if the phone is plugged in, you can also usually find it by clicking like on the menu or status or basic settings, and there should be an entry there for MAC, M-A-C. And you would enter that number here. You would then click on Create Device. After you click on Create Device, the only other thing you need to do within the dashboard is assign that phone to one of your users. Now, for the phone itself, you actually need to get into the phone's web user interface and input a URL. Basically tell the phone, hey, go here to get your configuration information. For the specifics of that for these manufacturers, we have a document on the support pages. It's called Auto Provisioning Phones. It's on the right, about a third of the way down from the support pages. It's going to have screenshots for each of these manufacturers' web user interface, the proper syntax for that URL, and in some cases, additional settings that we're recommending are set properly. Enter that URL, make sure those settings are matched. You would click some version of Save, Confirm, or Update. And then usually you click on another button to say Auto Provision Now. At that point, the phone's going to get this configuration file. It's going to reboot 2 times or 3 times. Kind of depends on the manufacturer. And after that last reboot, it should show up as a green device, like this one down here. Next up, we have cell phone. Cell phone and landline are basically the same. All right, you give it a name, and then you put in the phone number. Now, the main thing here under the number field, you put +1 area code and phone number. Right, then you would click on Create Device, and we'll turn J back on here. Let's click on the little wrench icon, and then I'm going to Advanced under Options. This is the default setup for a new cell phone or landline. Now, for cell phone and landlines, when a call gets to them, that's the endpoint, right? So once a call gets to the cell phone, it looks like Jay won't be able to transfer that call, right? He needs to handle the call all the way or have the customer call back in if they needed to speak to someone else. In terms of how that call is delivered, right? Call comes in through the system, gets offered to the cell phone number, right? Cell phone rings, Jay would pick it up, and what he's going to hear first is, this is a forwarded call, please press 1. Right, so pressing 1, confirming to the system, yes, someone is there, and yes, that person does want to talk to the inbound caller. System then ties the 2 calls together, and Jay can speak to the customer. Now, what happens for some of our customers is they're actually using a cell phone or a landline to actually send calls to an automated answering service, like for after hours, for example. In that situation, right, having to press 1 won't let the call connect to the automated answering service. So what you would need to do is, where it says allow use of cell phone's voicemail, put a check mark here, and then click on Save Changes. So now, when we make a call out to this particular phone number, it's when we hear that pickup tone, we connect the call, right? There's no need to press 1, right? So then the automated answering service can take over the call and helps the inbound caller. Now, if Jay, this phone for Jay is actually his cell phone, and he has this checked, if his cell phone voicemail picks up, we're still treating that like a connected call. So then that inbound caller can end up on his personal cell phone's voicemail box. Some people really want that, other people don't. Something else that sometimes comes up is this one here, keep original caller ID. So say customer Mary is calling Jay, right? So Jay's phone's ringing, he sees a phone number that he doesn't recognize. He's like, I'm tired of hearing about auto warranty, so he lets it go to voicemail. Hopefully he's able to reconnect with Mary and to complete the sale, maybe not. If you uncheck this, then instead of seeing customer Mary's phone number, you see your main company phone number. All right, let's go back to the dashboard. This phone number that you selected here, that's what would show up on Jay's phone. So that way, hopefully, Jay recognizes the company number, goes, oh, this is a work call, this is worthwhile for me to take, assuming he's not like in the middle of a meeting or driving or something like that. All right, Softphone. There is a little warning message here, basically saying, hey, there's wireless VoIP technology. Your E911 information may not be accurate to where you're physically located, so you may not want to dial 911 from your Softphone. And here we have a third-party Softphone setup. So you give it a name, and then you would copy the user information here, right, the SIP username. If you click on the SIP password box, you would then see the SIP password, which you would want to copy and paste someplace. And then you need the account realm. Those 3 pieces of information are what you use to program or provision that third-party Softphone application. So for instance, if you're using Bria or Xlite from Counterpath, and then you would click on Create Device. You would still need to assign that device to a user at some point. We do have some guides for some Softphones out there other than our own, but there are a ton. So unfortunately, we don't have guidance for every Softphone on the market. You can also add a web phone directly here on the devices page. The thing is, you just give it a name, create device. It's not going to be active or usable until you assign it to a user. All right, greetings. This is your greetings manager. So this shows all your media files that you've added to the account, whether it's a text-to-speech greeting, like right here, TTS, right? A recording, meaning you recorded it over the phone, or you uploaded a file. You can add files up here at the top. Just give it a name, find the file on your computer, and then click on Create Greeting. It will then upload the file to your Greetings tab here, so then you can add it wherever you need it to. Right over here, you can download any particular file, so you can listen to it to make sure it's relevant to, or still relevant, or still needed. And then edit under here, the wrench icon. This lets you change the name of a file as well as delete the greeting. So like I have, it looks like I've either got rid of or renamed my text-to-speech greetings like I did here. We have another one here, for example. All right, groups. This is short for ring groups or hunt groups. Basically departments, right? So it allows you to have calls go to multiple users. Right, click add group at the top, give it a name, give it an extension number, and you click and drag your staff members into a group, and then you click on create group. Once a group's created, you can click on its name. You can change the name at any time. And then you have these group call attempts. Little arrows here to the right so you can increase or decrease it. This is how many times an inbound caller is offered to your staff members, right? So one attempt means a call comes in, offered to each person once, and if they're not able to answer, then either the call ends or goes to its next action, right? If I increase it to 3, then now two. Now the inbound caller is offered to each of my staff members twice before it goes to next action or voice or call is ended. And then if you make any changes, click on Save Changes. Next, we click on the Members box. And you see here, these are my members, and this is the order that their calls are being rung in. You see here along the top, these are timestamps. This last one you can edit. All right, and defaults to 120 seconds, right, 2 minutes. Now I can click distribute here, and so it equalizes out for my staff members. Right, and it rings in this order. First David, then the tester, Fred, etc. These are sliders. So I can click and drag them across. So I can set up what's called blast ringing or ring all. Oops. Right, so in this instance, right, call comes in, it rings everybody at the same time until someone picks up. Something to be aware of, for calls that come to a user from a group or even from a queue, the system doesn't pay attention to the user feature follow me, right? It's going to ring so in terms of a group, a call comes in, it's going to ring all of David's devices, right? So if he's got 3 or 4 phones on his user, all of them ring until he picks up or a colleague picks up. One thing to also know is when a group user is on a call. So let's say a call comes in and Fred picks up, then a second call comes into the group. Fred's going to hear a call waiting beep on his phone, assuming his phone has call waiting, until one of his colleagues picks up the call. Right? And the only way to get rid of that call waiting beep is to disable call waiting on your particular phone. If you want to change the order, so let's go back to distribute here, right? And let's say, okay, David has a special project. He should not be taking calls. I would want to move him down. And we'll say here, Rupert has the most available time. I'll move him to the top. Now, right now, I haven't actually changed the order. But when I click distribute, it starts at the top and works its way down. And then I will click on Save Changes. One other thing, down here at the bottom left is where you would add additional users or staff members to your group. Obviously, you can remove users here on the right. Extensions, groups can have extensions. They can have multiple extensions if you want them to. All right, and then groups can also have their own phone number. You can either add from your spares or buy new. Now, one thing to know about phone numbers assigned to a group or even to a user is that that phone number is available 24/7, right? So it will not pay attention to your hours of operation because your hours of operation are associated with your main numbers, right? Calls going to your virtual receptionist or auto attendants, right? Any other phone number that's not a main number, it's going to go directly into wherever you have assigned it. Right, then we got group features. So first up is ringback. If you enable this, It allows you to upload a media file, .mp3, .ogg, .wav, coordinated mono under 1 megabyte, and then you would click on Save Changes. So by default, right, if this is not enabled, when a caller comes into your ring groups and this being offered to your staff members, your inbound caller, they just hear ringing by default. If you have enabled the ring back and uploaded a file, then this media file will replace that ringing sound. However, that ringing sound is what we pipe back to the customer from your staff members' phones. So if for some reason we're not getting that ringing sound back from your staff members' phones, then there won't be a ringback file playing. It'll be silenced until it gets to someone's phone that is providing that ringing sound. All right, next action. If you enable this, what are you going to do if no one picks up? And then you have a pull down here. Right, you can send them back to your virtual receptionist. You can send it to an alternate attendant. You can send callers to an ACD queue. You can send callers to a specific phone. You can send them to another ring group. You can send it to a specific user or a specific voicemail box. And then click on Save Changes. All right, and allow call forward. If you enable it, this basically allows your users to make use of call forwarding, right? So they can say, hey, I'm not going to be at my normal desk phone. I'm going to send it to my cell phone. And then you have caller ID prepend. Again, this is for your VoIP phone users, excuse me. You can add additional text or numbers in front of the caller ID that shows up on your staff members' VoIP phones. Again, gives them an idea what the call might be about, right? Especially useful if you have staff members having multiple roles. Numbers shows your numbers on their account and where they're going. You got the little gear icon here, so each number you can update caller ID, E911, etc. And it starts off with numbers in use in the middle. Spare numbers shows your numbers you're not currently using. Now, if you decide, oh, I have too many phone numbers, I want to reduce my bill, then you can remove numbers by, say, clicking on the little box in front of it. And you see here now, I have the option to delete. Let's go ahead and get rid of this 323 number here as well. And then you would click on delete. It says, are you sure you want to do that? So you click yes to confirm. It says your numbers have been removed. And now I have 2 less phone numbers on my account. And that could bring down my phone bill, potentially. All right, you can buy numbers here on this pay numbers page, local and toll-free, same process as we saw before. And that just adds them as additional spare numbers. So anywhere else you need to add a number, you can choose from add from spare. Then we have the port process here. There we go. You click on new port request, you give it a name, you choose US local or toll free, and then you would click on next. And then it asks you to upload a copy of your bill from your current carrier. And then you acknowledge that the bill is accurate or it's within the last 30 days. After that, it does ask you then for your address that the phone numbers are associated with, what phone numbers you actually want to port. You can have multiple on the same request. Just want to make sure that they're all from the same carrier. After that, it asks you to confirm. There's 4 boxes it wants you to check. You should read them. But basically, it's make sure you keep your current account active and you have an active VirtualPBX account, among other things. It does give you the opportunity to download a blank letter of agency or LOA, and then upload a completed and signed LOA. For the LOA, it asks for like your company information, right? Company name, address, etc. That information should match what your current carrier has on file for these phone numbers. It does need to be signed, right? It asks you to print your name and then sign your name. The signature, you can print it out, physically sign it, scan it back in, or if you have a digital signature file, you can place it there as well. Either will work. If you simply just type your name in twice, that's going to get a rejection and cause a delay in getting the port to complete. Typically speaking, local numbers can port anywhere from a couple days to 3 weeks on average. Toll-free numbers, typically 3 to 5 business days. In both those cases, it assumes that everything is correct. If you're porting both a local number and toll-free at the same time from the same carrier, they can have different completion dates. And actually, they would have different update times, most likely, as well. All right, now we go to users. So here you see all your users on the account. A person with the little blue suit icon, they're system admin. Right, person with the gray person icon, that's your standard user. If you click up here on add user, you just need to fill out the form. Right, first and last name, pretty easy. The email address used for login, that needs to be unique for each user. You can't use the same email address for multiple people. And then you create a password for them, and then select an extension number. Right, now the system is suggesting this extension 1012 because we started off with extension 1000. You can change this, right? You can, right? I can make it 4523 if I wanted to. All right, then we've got create a voicemail box for this user. This will be created at the same time as a user. It's intrinsically tied to that user. So for instance, if I create this user and then I assign them a VoIP phone, all right, and they can then pick up the handset of their VoIP phone, assuming it's registered, hit *98. That logs you into your voicemail box. The first time that user does it, the system will prompt them to create a PIN number for that voicemail box, and then to prompt them to record their voicemail greeting. Then we've got the include the user in the company directory. You can change this later. We have send emails to an alternate address. So for any user, right, if they get, let's say, a voicemail, the system automatically sends an email to the email address used to log in saying, hey, you got a voicemail. Here's some information about the call. Here is an attachment, right, MP3, so you can double click on it and listen to the voicemail. If for some reason you don't want the emails to go to their email address used for login, you can click here and then put in a different email address. And then, to me, this one down here at the bottom, send credentials to the user, kind of important. And then you would click on create user. So once you create the user, the system will send out an email to the email address used for login saying, hey, welcome to VirtualPBX. Here's your account information. Here's where to log in, etc. Once the user is created, you can click on their name. It's going to expand the little box here. I can change their name. All right, so if someone got married and changed their last name, I can change their credentials, so either email address or password. If you change the password, actually, if you change the email address, you do have to change the password at the same time. You also have the option here to send this person the password reset so they can create their own password. You got the voicemail box PIN number. Allows you to create a PIN number for anyone's voicemail box. Here's your option to send to an alternate address. And here's also the option to be in the user directory or not. Over here, to the right, user, this is a pull down. You can select a user to be an admin or an admin back to a user. And then we've got the time zone. Again, a pull down, you would just do a search and have the appropriate time zone for this user. And that would be important for like the voicemail timestamps. Here we got the display language. You have English, French, German, or Russian. And that's how the dash pages would appear to this user. Ringing timeout defaults to 20 seconds. 20 seconds is, so VirtualPBX, we can control how much time we try to reach out to a device. we don't control how many times it rings, right? Because that time to reach out to a device will vary depending on the device. So 20 seconds, typically enough time for a landline and most VoIP phones. To a cell phone, it might be problematic, right? In terms of how PBX systems works, right? Calls come into the PBX system, then goes to a user, and then that user's devices. So when we send a call out to a landline phone number, right, the landline company goes, oh, we know exactly where that is, or routes the call directly to that phone. Versus sending a call out to a cell phone provider goes, hold up, we got to find them first. Right? Pings cell phone towers, finds the cell phone, and then sends the call. That delay is why you would want to have a longer ring time for a cell phone user than you would for a landline user. Like 45 seconds is typically pretty good. Users can have multiple extensions. If you want to change a user's extension, I usually advise adding the new extension first and then unassigning the old extension. Right? Users can have their own phone numbers. Again, you can add from spare or by new. And again, these phone numbers work 24/7. And then you can add devices to a user. We'll go down here to Ken. All right, so you can add from spare devices. This is a device that's not already in use. So like I could send this web phone to her if I wanted. New devices, you have the same options, right? SIP phone. You can do it directly here instead of on the devices page. The main thing I want to highlight here, though, is the Softphone. Right, we still get that error message. But when you add a Softphone on the user's page, you have an additional option, which is right down here at the bottom, just below where it says View Configuration Guide. Little toggle here. It says Use Third-Party Application. Right, that's the default that we saw under the devices page. If you click on this, it's going to flip it. And now it says Use VirtualPBX Application. Now, in this case, I'm getting a warning message saying, hey, this email address is already associated with a Softphone. Right? So each email address can only have one Softphone. But if she didn't have that, then I could create her a new Softphone. I would then click on Save Changes, and that person would get an email with the username, password, and download links. Now, to get around that particular error message, you can send emails to an alternate address. All right, so I can do something like this. Oops. All right, I click Save Changes. And then when I go back to Softphone here, click it. Right, so then I can click on Create Device here, Save Changes, and then now an email is being sent out to that email, the alternate email address saying, hey, here's your login information, and here's where you would go to download the links. Likewise, it's easier to, or I find it easier, to assign a web phone to a user. All right, just do it here, and it's got cut off. Oh, here, we can use this person. Still get that warning message because you could be remote. And you can just call it Create Device, Save Changes. All right, so now when this user can go, they can go to webphone.virtualpbx.net, and that page has a login request, right? And it uses your same dash login information. So same email address, same password, same account name, and then you can use Chrome or Firefox to make and receive calls. All right, voicemail boxes. Every user, or typically, has its own voicemail box already assigned to a user. The system automatically generates the main voicemail box. And then you can always create your own manually created voicemail boxes. You just give it a name, you give it a voicemail box number and a PIN number. Then you click create new voicemail box. Now for any voicemail box on the account, you can click on the little wrench icon here so you can see the voicemail box number and enter a PIN number or see what the existing PIN number is. So then you can record a voicemail greeting over the phone. Or you can go to advanced and you can go to greeting media. Right? You can upload a file directly to the voicemail box. You can choose from an existing recording. The media file is the default. Right? That's your normal day-to-day voicemail greeting. Temporary would be for like your out of office or vacation voicemail greeting. So if a temporary file is selected, it will supersede the media file, right? It's going to play the temporary file. Once you put the temporary file back to none, then your normal media file will play. Next up, we have recipients. Now, for your user voicemail boxes, they already have a built-in recipient. For any voicemail box you create manually, or the main voicemail box, you would just click on Add New Recipient and then put in an email address here. And if I just need the one, then I would click on Save Changes. If I want to add multiple, I would just keep clicking Add until I'm done. And then we have options. So once a voicemail box has a voicemail greeting and has a recipient, you can go to Already Set Up. Down here, you have some other options. So by default, voicemail boxes typically have the attached messages to email. You may choose this one here, delete after notification. And that is because voicemail boxes can have up to 100 messages. Right? So if your staff is good about deleting their voicemails, you don't have to worry about it. But if they're not, once a voicemail gets full, right, the inbound caller gets voicemail boxes full and they're not able to leave a message. And then beyond that, you click on Save Changes. And I think I forgot to do something under users. Yes, I forgot user features. My apologies. All right, so we can click on user features. The caller ID number, this means the user has to have their own phone number. If you enable it, then that phone number that they have on their user is what is used for outbound caller ID. Right? If they don't have a phone number, they're not able to enable this feature. Call forwarding, this is a feature your users can enable themselves, either via the user portal or from a VoIP phone. The one mode that you would have, an admin would need to enable failover mode. And you choose, either desk phone or a mobile phone. You put +1 area code and phone number, save changes. What failover mode is, if when the system detects that their VoIP phone has become unregistered and a call comes into the user, the system will automatically forward the call to the device you select. Right, on, you could just turn it on, but again, your users can set this up themselves under the user portal. Hot desking, let's enable this. You give a hot desk ID. So if you use 4-digit extensions, that's usually the easiest thing to set the hot desk ID as. But this is for VoIP phone users in a shared office environment. For instance, like many companies are going to a hybrid setting where people come in maybe twice a week. Other times they're working from home. So on those days that they're in the office, right? Say I come into the office, I sit at desk number 7. I pick up the VoIP phone there. I hit *11. That turns on hot desking on that VoIP phone. The system then prompts me to enter my hot desk ID. Right? If my admin required a PIN number, then I would need to enter that PIN number. Then I get a message saying, hey, this call to this, your user will be sent to this device. Rest of my workday, any call that comes to me, whether the person entered my extension number directly or came into a group I'm a part of or a queue that I'm a part of, will ring at the phone I'm sitting at. All right, end of my day, pick up this handset again, I hit *12, turns off hot desking. Next time I come into the office, right, we'll say it's Thursday, same thing. Right, pick up the handset, hit *11, hot desk ID, now calls are coming to me at the desk I'm sitting at that day. Voicemail box, again, this is pretty standard right here. Voicemail to email means that we're attaching the message. You have the option here to delete it here instead of doing it on the voicemail box pages. Transcription is actually a plan-specific feature. Basically, the system listens to the voicemail and tries to type it out in your email notification. It's a best effort service. Faxbox, a user can have their own individual Faxbox if you want them to. Right? It's not something you have to do. But you can click Enabled. And then you have the option. Do you want to have them use one of your spare numbers, buy a new number, or assign a new extension? I generally recommend making use of a phone number that will allow the user to send and receive faxes. If this user only ever needs to receive a fax, right? I'll never ever need to send a fax out, then you can assign an extension number. And then you would click on Save Changes. So now this user, click Save Changes real quick. Right. So calls come into Aaron. Now, this is only going to work on the main number. Right. So caller comes into the main number. They hear the greeting on their fax machine. Then they have to hit 399 to get to Aaron's fax box. Right. Fax gets through. Voila. Now, if Aaron didn't have any devices, then a fax could come in on this fax number, on his phone number, technically. The downside is for Aaron is he won't be able to send a fax out because when the system tries to fax out, it looks at the user who sent the email, right? It looks at the phone number and the realm. And then when it checks the user, it says, does the user have their own fax box? If it does, it uses that fax box information to send the fax out. Well, to send a fax out, you need to have a full phone number, right? Aaron only has an extension number. So when he tries to fax out, it's going to say the phone number is 399 and it's going to fail. So that's why I would usually recommend just use a full phone number. Conference Bridge. If you enable it, the only thing an admin needs to do is create the participant PIN number and click Save Changes. Your users can change their PIN numbers on their user portal. Follow Me is for users with multiple devices. And in fact, we will go here real quick. So when you enable it, this is what it looks like. Basically, what the system wants you to do is tell it which phones am I using. So you can uncheck all of them, for example. Now, right now, they're not ringing very long, right? 1 second, basically. You've got a duration up here. And just like in ring groups, you can click Distribute. You can click and drag and redistribute. Or you can just, do it so it rings all of them. Now, bear in mind that only works for calls that are coming directly to this user, right? So if they called this 408 number, the Follow Me rules would apply, right? If someone dialed the main number and entered his extension number, again, those rules would apply. But if Mike here is in a ring group, the system doesn't care about Follow Me rules, right? If he's in a queue, right? A queue can only send calls right now to a VoIP device, and he would need to select in the queue which device he's sending the calls to. Music on hold. Users can have their own hold music if you want them to. You would just enable it and then upload a file, .wav, .mp3, .ogg, recorded in mono under 1 megabyte. Customized call recording. So when you first enable it, it looks like this. And the system wants to know, okay, what kind of calls do you want recorded? So inbound internal, right, coworker call, right? Coworker Bob gave me a call. Inbound external, customer Mary gave me a call. Outbound internal, I called coworker Bob. And outbound external, I called customer Mary back. And then Save Changes. And then lastly, you can put a user on Do Not Disturb and Save Changes. That means calls to them will go to voicemail. If they are logged into a queue, they're not going to be offered calls from the ACD queue. All right, advanced routing. Right now, that's home to direct inward system access. What this does is allows you to call into your system from a cell phone or a landline. You can log in and then make an outbound call. Now, when you make that outbound call, it's not your cell phone number that's showing up as the outbound caller ID, but your main company number. So you would click Enable, and it automatically assigns you a PIN number. I recommend you click Edit Settings and assign it. Click on Add Extensions and add that extension number. Right? That's 2 pieces of information people need to be able to make that outbound call. So call into your main number. Then the inbound caller enters 1012. Right? Then the system prompts them for this PIN number. Then they'll hear dial tone. Then they enter the area code and phone number they're trying to call. The call goes out. Now, if I don't assign an extension number, then I would need to make it a menu option. Under the virtual receptionist, we do not recommend that. And in fact, direct inward system access is not enabled on the new accounts. If this is something you want, you would need to talk to our account services team about getting that enabled. And the reason for that is this is a way for people to commit fraud on your account without you knowing it, right? If someone's able to figure out the PIN number and even the extension number, right, they can log into your account at any time, make outbound calls on your account, right? So on your dime. So that's why we typically don't have it enabled on accounts. Now, one way you might be able to notice a lot of outbound calls is via your call logs. You have this week, today, this week, and this month. Green arrow to the right, that's a call that came into the system. You can click on it to see a little more, whereas you got the little yellow arrow to the left. See, that was an outbound call. And some of these here, right, when you click on it here, you can say, okay, this device was sent to a user, right? So sent to this VoIP phone and then eventually to this cell phone number. This little fire hydrant here, this will report the call. It basically creates an email addressed to support@virtualpbx.com, and it's going to have the technical details of the call. I recommend that in that email, you type what you experienced or what went wrong, right? Or what your concern was about the particular call. And then our support team can take a look. They'll definitely reach out to you, basically trying to say either get more information or arrange to have test calls. Now, you can always download these logs. It just downloads it as a CSV file. In the custom, you can change the date range. So I could go back and look at October and click filter. Right, it'll keep expanding, and I can download my October calls. Now, in terms of how far you can go back 1 year, right? Our engineering team can go back an additional 6 months. Beyond that, we are not going to be able to recover call log data. So if it's something you think you're going to need to have, the call history on the account, I recommend basically every month just downloading it, right? And it gives you, right, you can, like in this case, I could download it and just label it call log October 2021, right? So I know exactly what I'm looking at. If you have a lot of call volume, you might need to do week by week versus a full month. All right, feature codes. I've already talked about a couple of these. These are ways for your VoIP phone users to make use of different features of Dash directly from their VoIP phone. These are also published on the website under the support pages. Also on the support pages, there is a document called Phone Commands Cheat Sheet. And it will have the various commands there as well as a brief explanation. All right, ACD queues. ACD stands for automatic call distribution. These are the standard queues that you see here. We also have ACD queues Pro. For the Pro queues, you're going to want to look at we have a video under this YouTube channel, ACD queues Pro demo. You can take a look at that. This is an add-on feature. So it depends on the plan that you're on, and then you need to add on to that plan. You're going to want to talk to our account services team if you're interested in these, if you don't already have them. Once you create a queue, right? You give it a name. A queue can have either an extension or a phone number, cannot have both. And then you select its routing strategy. Round robin equalizes out over time. You have least calls, least offered, and most idle as additional options. Least calls is connected calls. Least offers is the combination of missed and connected calls. Queue timeout, this is how much time people can, hold treatment. So you can upload a music file, right? .wav, .mp3, .ogg. The queue timeout measured in seconds is how much time people can wait on hold. The queue call limit, how many people can wait on hold on top of who's already talking to your staff. You can time out immediately if empty. That means if you have no staff members logged in and a call comes in, the system will treat it as if that caller hit the 3,600 seconds. Escalation call flow after timeout. If your staff members are busy, you can send calls to additional queues. And then zero out call flow, basically you're allowing your inbound caller to press 0 and they can go to like a voicemail box. Agent behavior, recovery time, 20 seconds. Some people put it at 0. This essentially allows your staff members time to recover after a call, have a sip of water, etc. Force away on reject or missed. If you enable this, that means if your staff member misses a call, the system puts them in away mode, and then they're not able to take calls until they mark themselves ready again. And then agent connect timeout, 20 seconds. Again, on queues, you can only accept the VoIP phones. So 20 seconds is enough time. Over here, we have the little members icon. These are my people who can be in my queues. And I click on manage members. I can add people. Oops. Like I can click on Ken and add members. And now Ken's over here on my right. If I go back to members list, right now Ken is listed here. Once you have members assigned, you can click on a queue here and click on agents. And I can click and drag to add the agent there. I would need to click save changes. So once an agent logs in, right, they would click on queues. And on standard queues, they start off as away mode. Now, first time you log in, your staff member should click on this little phone icon and select the voice device they're using. You do not want to leave it on select all. And then once they're ready to take calls, they click on the status bar here and then mark themselves as ready. Blacklist, this allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you are blocking from reaching your system. You click edit blacklists. You can click add to create a new one, right? If you don't have one already, I'll just use the existing one here. Now, first thing is block anonymous, right? So if we don't get valid inbound caller ID and you turn this on, that means the call will be blocked. They get a busy tone. Otherwise, you would click on add number, put +1 area code and phone number for each phone number that you don't want reaching your system. Keep clicking add until you're done. And then you would click on save. You go back to settings and you want to make sure it's on the right-hand side under selected. And then click update. So now any phone number on this list, they try to call any of my phone numbers on my account, they get busy tone. Dynamic caller ID. This is a plan-specific feature, and this allows you to create rules to change your outbound caller ID for your VoIP phone users. So first example here, I have this 408. Let's go ahead and click on edit. So you give it a name, and then you select a phone number on your account that you want displayed. Right, so in this case, this 408 number. And then I'm making it use this rule here, which is whenever one of my staff members enters a 408 area code on their VoIP phone, the system will automatically change their caller ID to this phone number 408 number I selected. So that way, when they're calling someone in the 408 area code, it looks like it's a local call. Likewise, up here for LA, in this case, I selected a toll-free number, and I made a feature code. So now what happens is my staff members, they pick up their VoIP phone, they hit *550, then the number they're reaching out to. Once they do that, this phone number I chose will show up as the caller ID. And for feature codes, we do suggest making use of 3-digit ones, so that way you don't interfere with the 2-digit ones that are on the feature codes page. Faxes, this is your fax manager. It's included on all accounts. You can see your inbound faxing, right? See the date, the phone number it came from, phone number it went to, the pages. You can download the file. You can click on that to see additional details, although on a successful fax, you don't really need to see much. Outbound faxes. Let's see if there's anything. Here you can see successes. Now, if you see a failure here, that means we had a problem communicating with the other fax machine, right? And then in which case you would go over here to the little menu icon and look through here, and hopefully the system gives you some more details. Like it could be simply user busy, right? We failed because the fax number we were dialing was giving us busy tone. There could be something more or not as clear cut. Like it's like there's some messages that basically say that we had like a bad tone got sent back to us, so it caused the fax to fail, or we got a disconnect message, so the fax failed. The email to fax logs, they show you your fax attempts. Now, anything that shows up here, this is our system had problems with the attachment or the email in some fashion, right? So it didn't even get to the point of trying to reach out to the other fax number, right? This lets you know the email address that was involved, the format of their email, so you can see that these were correct, the date, the time, little eyeball icon here, you click on that, and it's the errors that you want to look at. So you can say, oh, this person wasn't on the account, and there's no actual fax boxes on the account. So what likely happened is afterwards, someone came in and added the main fax box number. Monitor is a plan-specific feature. It just allows you to see the status of your staff members. Right, I have all here, available, or busy. You can also go by device, see which phone they're on. Over here to the left, right, so you have active incoming calls, and then parked calls. When there's a parked call, you'll see the parking spot number as well. Number manager takes you to the spare numbers page by default, so you can buy and port. The recording manager, this either will take you to recordings.virtualpbx.net in a new tab, and that means you're using our recording storage, and then you can look at your recordings. Or if you've linked an AWS account at Amazon Web Services, then you will see an interface linked to your AWS account, so you can see your recordings there. Reports, this will open up a new tab. This is advanced reporting, so that's a plan-specific feature, sorry. But this will open up a new tab to take you to reports.virtualpbx.com, and this allows you to create your own custom reports. If you, we have a demo on this YouTube channel. Just go under videos and look up advanced reporting demo, and you can get an idea of what you can do. Voicemails, this takes you to your voicemail manager, so you can see any voicemails that are on the account. I don't know that there's a lot on here, but basically you can listen to a voicemail greeting, voicemail message. You see the date, the time. As an admin, you can click on the box in front of a voicemail and you can move it to a different voicemail box, right? If it came to the wrong person. Then we got webhooks. Webhooks is a plan-specific feature. It allows you to link Dash to other software. If you're interested in this, you'd want to actually talk to our sales team as they have more information on this. You can also go to developer.virtualpbx.com to see samples of what we have done in terms of linking Dash to other software. And then lastly, the user portal. Every user on your account has their own user portal. As an admin, you can't see their user portal. But that doesn't matter because you can get to basically everything. So on the user portal, if users can see their own voicemails. Now, if their voicemail box is set up to delete after notification, right, nothing's going to show up here. But if not, then they can play the message, download the message, and delete it themselves. Call history, they can see calls made or received on their user. Faxes would be if they have their own fax box. The contact list, this shows all your users and groups, etc., and how to access them. Your conference tab, this is where your users would adjust their PIN numbers over here to the right. So you have the moderator PIN and the participant PIN number. They also have the options here. Do people show up muted or do people enter deafened, as well as playing entry and exit tones. Up here at the top, you can invite people to an existing conference. You can lock a conference. You mute everybody, unmute everybody, end the conference call. Also, while in a conference, you'll have headings here for moderators and participants. And as a moderator, you can mute a specific participant as well as kick them if you need to. Then we have the Settings and Devices tab. This is where your users would set up their own call forwarding. Right, just put in area code and phone number that they're sending to, +1 area code and phone number, and then save. And they can see the status of their current devices. And that is it. So I'll go back to the dashboard. I haven't seen any questions come through on chat, so I think I'll go ahead and wrap this up today. Again, I do apologize for being late. We are typically here at 10 a.m. Pacific time, which we'll be here again after Thanksgiving. Again, our YouTube channel, we have this one will be recorded and show up shortly. We have the previous weeks as well. And again, we have that advanced reporting demo as well as the ACDQs Pro demo to get a better idea of both of those features. Beyond that, I thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful day and a safe Thanksgiving.